people of Hong Kong riot through the streets day in and day out. This melting pot of Chinese and British heritage wasn't always like this. To get a better understanding of the social injustice behind the protesting, we must understand the region's history. The time period is the late 1600s to early 1700s. Britain and China were trading silk, porcelain, but most importantly, tea. Tea was a hot commodity for the British people, and China was the only people producing it on a large scale. Their trades went on for years. China would trade tea in exchange for pure silver. A problem occurred when Britain started to run low on silver in its national reserve. Britain's response to this was rather unethical, as they went on to illegally sell opium to the Chinese people in exchange for silver, which they then sold back to the Chinese government for tea. China caught on and cracked down on opium, which started the Opium Wars between Britain and China. The war ended with peace talks, and it was then where Britain was given the rocky, undeveloped island of Hong Kong for 99 years, which in the eyes of British diplomats was forever. The fact of the matter is 99 years isn't forever, and Hong Kong was handed back to China in 1997. The Chinese government agreed to the one country, two systems law. This stated that in all matters other than foreign relations and defense, Hong Kong would have full autonomy until 50 years after the handoff. Though this may have been the deal, from spectating what's going on today, the Chinese government doesn't plan on fulfilling their commitment. It all starts with a murder that involves two Hong Kong citizens on vacation in Taiwan. Only one of the citizens returned to Hong Kong, later confessing he had killed his girlfriend on vacation. Although there was a confession, authorities in Hong Kong couldn't arrest or extradite the man as he committed the crime in Taiwan. This led the Hong Kong government to draft a bill that allowed Hong Kong to extradite to Taiwan, but this also allows extradition to mainland China, where proper trials and humane punishments are unheard of. The bill that was later scrapped started protests all over Hong Kong, which then spiraled into a pro-democracy movement as the people in Hong Kong want to keep their autonomy, as opposed to conforming to communist China. These riots started in March 2019 and are still occurring even through a global pandemic. It has left the streets of Hong Kong to be seen as a dystopian warfield and has caused thousands of arrests and injuries. The Hong Kong security law that was secretly passed has added fire to the flames. It has direct correlations against secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign agencies. So what does all this mean for Hong Kong? The law allows things like damage to public transport to be considered terrorism, people that are suspicious to be wiretapped, and worst of all, Beijing, China's capital, will have power over how the law should be interpreted, rendering them all-powerful over Hong Kong's government system. This quick takeover of Hong Kong after agreements that stated Hong Kong would stay autonomous for 50 years is an injustice to everyone living there. The people are losing their freedoms and democracy, showing how horrible the issue is. Well, to answer the question, we need to understand what type of social justice issue this problem falls under. This issue affects voting laws, civil rights, policing, healthcare, education, and labor laws, making it overwhelmingly an unequal government regulation. It links to the Catholic social justice teachings of peace and rights, dignity of the human person, common good, and responsibilities. Overall, it becomes apparent that the citizens of Hong Kong are losing their freedom and ability to choose the good. They're losing their community, as they'll have to conform to what China's values are. All of Hong Kong's citizens are standing up for justice and the peace that they believe in. They're using their conscience to shape Hong Kong society in the hope of happiness. The people of Hong Kong are doing what those in the poem, The Hangman, could not. They're standing up for each other against a threat in their way of life. If Hong Kong falls, what does that say about how powerful governments have become, having the ability to control so many with violence instead of peace? The nonprofit organization Hong Kong Free Press has made a goal of getting important news to the citizens of Hong Kong. They're valued by the people in Hong Kong as they deliver news that isn't censored by the Chinese government. This leaves the Hong Kong people with a news source that they can rely on. They were created independently after the popular Umbrella Movement protests that occurred in 2014. Overall, the organization plays an important role as it stands for freedom and it gives Hong Kong citizens the information they need to make decisions for the greater good of their community. To wrap it up, what's going on in Hong Kong is an injustice and it goes against Catholic values. An injustice that takes away a person's freedom isn't a problem the modern day world should still have. Jesus told us, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." Hopefully, China's government will one day understand this and come to a compromise with Hong Kong.